Welcome back, and today I'm taking you book shopping to one of the coolest bookshops I think I've seen online at least, so I'm hyped for that. And then when I get back, I'll show you what I bought if I buy anything, and then I'm going to talk to you about this book that I've just finished by John Gwynne, and this book that I've just started by Kristin Hannah. If you're new to this page, welcome. My name's Tyrone. I'm like a middle-aged book friend online that does bang average reviews about books that you may or may not care about. I'm here. I've never been here before. Quite a nice little place. Middle at Peak District, about half an hour from where I live. But I'm going to show you some of the buildings because, yeah, they look cool. Nice little fish and chip shop there. Everything's pretty much closed at the minute, but I have looked online and it says that bookshop's open. Some houses, a street if you've never seen a street before. Little cafe over there. So looking on Google Maps, it reckons it's up this quiet little road somewhere. I can see it actually. It's just up there, that white veranda thing. This is right nice. I don't know why, but it just makes me happy coming to bookshops that I'd never heard of. I'd never heard of this until someone messaged me and said I needed to come. It looks like it's probably used books, but it's set in such a nice little village. There's a nice memorial outside it here, which is a World War I memorial. It says, to the memory of the men of Scarthin who caved their lives in the Great European War, 1914 to 1918, which is quite fitting because on the way here I was listening to Nightingale, which is actually World War II, Kristin Hannah's book, and it's right good. Some nice seats outside, although I'm not sitting down because it's wet, but it's just right nice. I can't wait to go inside and have a look. There's multiple floors as well, so downstairs, and then apparently there's some upstairs as well. So yeah, let's go and have a nebby. Morning. Are you alright with recording? Yeah. I'm so excited.
Record away. And then Lisa was
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we're on the top floor now. So we've got music. We've got the music room in here. And we've got, because the shop's a mixture of new and second hand, so half our stock is brand new, half is second hand, and we have a corresponding area for everything. So music, for example, new books on music.
Which is probably where I'm going to find a piano somewhere.
No,
Really? No piano in music room?
So everything in this room is second hand.
Yeah.
So we've had an incredible jazz collection in recently, and so there's books about music. There's lots of trays of sheet music. This is all second hand. You just never know what's coming through the door second hand. We've had this. I've got 11 boxes of the most incredible 70s, 80s classic rock and pop music, which makes fantastic.
I bet people can get obsessed in here.
Oh yeah, it's just so music room.
Yeah.
We have social sciences on this top floor where we've got philosophy, psychology, theology, counselling, the self-help and new age. Because we've just celebrated our 50th anniversary, and when the shop opened in '74, it was the family home of the Mitchells who set it up. And although Dave kind of went into semi-retirement nearly 20 years ago now.
So are they the Mitchells? Are they the people that own the business?
They still own the business.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I've been managing for 18 years. But what's interesting is this was the family home, and this was one of the kids' bedrooms. And if you look,
of course.
you can still see.
Yeah.
You can still see this. The kids' wallpaper.
So they lived here then?
Here. Yeah.
Was it just lived upstairs and then they had a bookshop downstairs?
The bookshop was the ground floor.
Okay.
Yeah. So the cafe that you've seen on the middle floor, that was just the family kitchen.
Okay.
So they would literally have to, kind of, people were wandering around their house, and it got to the point, the bookshop went to the middle floor, and then it just took over, and they were kind of, we got squeezed out of the shop.
I just love that they've left wallpaper up there.
Yeah, I've decided just not to touch this.
No.
It's kind of part of the character.
So this room, what's this one?
So this is the
Travel and stuff, is
transport.
it? Transport.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of second-hand transport up here, and gardening and local interest. So there's a whole wall of second-hand books on Derbyshire and over there, and natural history second-hand. So the landing is science. People take a lot of pictures of collections now, and this is one of the really nice rooms to while away some time sitting in an armchair.
I can imagine, yeah.
So again, with the new and second hand, so we've got one side which is all new art books, photography books.
Yeah.
And then the other three walls are made up of second hand. So we've got second hand art and photography over here, second hand art there.
And like you said, people all come in and you just buy the books off them basically.
Yeah, so with second hand, I probably average about 10 messages a day of people selling collections. It can be anything from a couple of bags of fiction to a house full of collectible art and photography. It can be, you never know what you're going to get off.
I assume you accept donations as well if people who's going to give you books.
Yeah, we get donations as well. We have to be selective, of course, but otherwise we collapse under the weight.
Absolutely.
But it's exciting. You never know.
It's not a bad position to be in, though, is it? Having to turn books away.
Yeah.
You've definitely got stock.
There's always new stuff coming in. It's great. So this is my favourite.
It's crazy because from outside looking in, it's just a small little shopping. Obviously,
Yeah.
you can see that there's windows.
You wouldn't know there are 12 rooms when you come in.
I bet you couldn't hazard a guess at how many books you can stock.
I know, we get asked that a lot. It's got to be, we reckon, just short of 100,000 altogether.
Wow.
Split 50-50 new second-hand. The children's room is really thriving.
Yeah.
I think, and kids are obviously spend a lot of time on screens and the like, but I think people are surprised to know that kids' books are still selling.
They do, yeah.
They really are.
So my middle child, she's autistic as well.
Yeah.
But she does love reading. She just
Yeah.
struggles sometimes with certain books, but she's obsessed with the Terry, the Horrible Histories books.
Yes.
She loves the Horrible Histories.
So anything kind of graphic or visual.
Yeah.
Bunny versus monkey and like. My 7-year-old's autistic. He's obsessed with reading all of the really popular section. Lots of history.
I love historical, like non-fiction. At the minute, I'm reading my first ever historical fiction, which I didn't know how I'd cope with that because I always struggle with how they're going to write trauma and stuff in books. But it seems really good. If you've not read Kristin Hannah's stuff before, it's really good.
No, not familiar with that. Yeah, so this is the real jewel in the bookshops in here. Which
The
is
cafe.
Vegetarian vegan cafe.
So when you say because some people will find that quite interesting. When you say vegetarian vegan, so it's only vegetarian and vegan stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that just by choice? Is that because are you vegetarian vegan?
Yes.
Yeah.
You remember the Observer books? Did you ever do these?
No.
You don't remember them?
No. I've got a terrible memory.
Oh, these are absolutely amazing.
People always say to me, like, one of the questions I get a lot on my page is, what did you read as a child? And I'm like, I can't remember. I remember reading Shivers and Goosebumps and Roald Dahl, but...
amazing collection. This came from a chap who used to collect, there are 100 in the series, and he would always buy, every time he saw a better edition or a better quality book, he'd buy another one. So he has at least 10 of each in the series.
Yeah.
So we currently must have the largest Observer collection in the country. I've got an office full still.
Is this this is new crime?
So with crime, for example, that's new crime. Second-hand crime will be down one of the aisles on the right-hand side. So new fiction is all of the wall straight ahead. Yeah. As you approach from the door, the adjacent wall over there is all the second-hand fiction.
Yeah.
And then we separate out and curate a kind of new release section there.
Cool. In
the corner, and a lot of the sales of new books come from just this corner here of everything that's out that month. And we have a top 25 of our bookshops, best-selling books.
And is that this one here?
Yeah, this little selection here. So this is the current 25 best-selling books in the shop. And there's always the odd surprise here that you don't necessarily think is going to be that big a seller. But we've got a fantastic new Rag Divergent display.
Okay,
here. And it's incredible. If you look in our top 25 bestsellers, you can see that there are books on autism, ADHD, that kind of hit and make it into the top sellers. It's incredible.
I think people like talking about it now, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
It was taboo before. Like you would, if there was anything wrong with you, we'll say at school, you were just a naughty child. It's like stick them in a different room.
This is I was telling you about a Marvel collection that we've had in recently. So this all came from one chap who's decided it's time to thin out his collection. And it's just amazing. Thin out, I know.
I don't know how much he had.
Yeah. And they're immaculate. They're so well looked after.
Collectors normally keep up, they look after the stuff, don't they?
Yeah. So we've just put this together and created this display here.
I'm back. And I got some books, but before I talk to you about them books, I just want to big up that shop. It was just class. I'm out of breath because I've just run upstairs, and you know me, I'm a bit unfit. They didn't know I was going there today. I just turned up, which is what I always want to do when I film these videos, because it's always nice to see what kind of customer service and interaction you get with staff. And as soon as I walked in, they were just so welcoming. The buzz you got from the shop were just a book lover buzz, if that makes any sense at all. They were just talking about books as soon as I got in. And then they were like, do you need any help at all? And I says, I'll be honest, I've never been here before. I've just Googled it. I've seen class reviews and I want to come and geek. And they were like, yeah, this is where alt books are, yada, yada, yada. We'll leave you to it. At that point then, I just said, look, I do have a social media account. Do you mind if I post content? Blah, blah, blah. So they're like, yeah, of course. I think the owner's called David. So he then came up to me and just said, oh, what do you do? So I told him and I said, would you mind just giving me a tour around, hence the footage you've got? It's just, the footage that you see doesn't do justice to how rammed full of books this place is. 100,000 books, I think he said. And it's just, it shows every single bit of wall is covered in paper. And it's just amazing to see. Ruben, who's my son, has got an assembly this afternoon, so I had to shoot and I didn't get to spend as much time as I'd have loved to spend there. But it's one of them shops where you could just spend all day and just geek over books. It was just insane. After I've showed you the books I've got from there today, because I did get a couple, I'm going to talk to you about Shadow of the Gods, which I've just finished, and Nightingale as well, which I've just started. But I ended up picking up 2 used books, because as he said, they do new and used books, and I'm always going to buy used if I can buy used, because, yeah, money don't grow on trees, and I'm always about trying to save some pennies. So, these books, Peter James, they're part of a series called the Roy Gray series, I think, and Sean, who is a lad that I follow on TikTok, always raves about these books. And if Sean says they're good, I trust him, because he's got good taste in books. I might take these away on holiday with me, because they seem like they could be pretty easy reads. Although they're quite thick books, if you look inside, the margins are quite, like, big margins here. So, yeah, I think they're just deceivingly thick, these. So I'll probably take them away, and then I'll tell you on my page what I reckon to them. But the book I've just finished, Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, this was my first ever John Gwynne book, and it's my first ever Norse fantasy book. I did recommend this on my TikTok and Instagram. I think this is the kind of book that everyone should read if they like fantasy. But romantasy lovers can probably stay away, because there's not really any romance in this book. If there is, it's definitely a subplot, and it's not heavy. But it's quite overwhelming in the sense that there's a lot of Norse stuff. Like, I've never read Norse before, and the world building was very Norse heavy in this book. It goes into a lot of words like Jarl or something like that. I don't know what it means, but it's a Norse thing. I find myself every now and again Googling stuff. There's a lot of mention of like Norse gods and creatures and myths. But that's what you're going to expect, innit, when you're reading a Norse book. Because if they didn't talk about that, it'd just be a fantasy book. It wouldn't be a Norse-inspired fantasy book. And I did really enjoy it. I think I rated it 4.5 on my Fable app. But I hadn't started second one because I'm just mental. And I'm an habitual series starter. So I start a book, I read it, and I'm like, whoa, that is just right good. Let me not start the second book and let me jump into something different because I feel like I'm missing out. So I'll do book 2 at some point. I just don't know when. There's loads of graphic violence in this book. So the battle scenes are just battling. The adventure that they go on is pretty cool. But it is book 1. So there's a lot of world building, explaining what's happening. Half the time you're just like, who are these characters and how do they all come together? But it starts to kind of come together middle towards end. Yeah, I thought pacing were good. I didn't get bored at any point. So The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I definitely recommend you read it if you like fantasy. I'm told that he does another series. It's got a picture of like a hammer on it, and one of the books is called Malice. That's meant to be very good as well. So if you want to check that out, check that. So the book that I've just picked up is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. And I was scared to start this book because loads of people were like, it's one of the best books ever, you need to read it. And I do love historical non-fiction, but usually with historical fiction I just avoid it like the plague, because I think, well, it's not real, so I'm not going to feel the same way as I do. I'm 65 pages in, chapter 8, and so far I'm enjoying it. I can tell that it's well written. I know I say a lot of time to you like that I don't really know what well written book means, because I failed my GCSE English. Like, I don't read books to try and break down writing and stuff like that. I just read for enjoyment of the plot and the story. But I can just tell when I read this book that it's well written. Like, there's some lines that just go, ooh. Like on the first page, there were a line right at the bottom that says, "The past has a clarity I can no longer see in the present." And I were like, ooh, that hit hard. Because when I'm feeling proper depressed, I can't see any present or future. So there's just lines like that in the book where you're like, oh, you bugger, that hurt me writing feels. But more than that, the plot seems pretty cool. It follows two sisters. So one of the sisters has got a happy family. She's the older sister. And I don't fully know the story yet, but the older sister sent the younger sister away because they lost the mum when they were young and the dad were meant to look after them, but he was like, I'm not looking after you, you do you, boo-boo. So the older sister ended up giving up in one way or another on the younger sister, and then the younger sister's been going around like different schools and getting excluded, and the older sister's ended up getting a happily ever after, we'll say, with her husband and a kid, and then the war happens and the older sister's husband gets sent to war, and then they end up reuniting somehow. And it's the story about these two sisters at war. One of the sisters is very much a realist. She's like, look, we're at war. We live in France. The Germans are bad people. And the older sister's kind of like, no, the government are saying this. We just need to go with the flow. We're not at war. The Germans are going to help us. And that's what I'm getting so far. I can't say much more than that, but I'm intrigued. And usually at this point, I'd have given up on book. And I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going because I think I'm actually going to enjoy this one. So we'll see how we get on with it. I'm away on holiday next week, so I'm going to take a couple of books away with me on holiday. I don't know what I'm going to do for footage. I might have to try and record some footage and then upload when I'm over there, because I want to try and spend as much time with kids as possible, reading outside at pool and not having to constantly create content and stuff like that. But yeah, right, enjoyed today. That's what I'm doing. I don't think I've got what else I need to say to you. You know I love you. I don't need to do that. We're just mates, aren't we? I like to think of this page as like your internet friend. This is like the friendly side of BookTube. We're just all mates here and it's just right nice. What a day.